Hello everyone. Today let us learn the poem Gitanjali 35 Where the Mind is Without Fear, written by Rabindranath Tagore. Here is the overview of today's learning. We'll start with author introduction and then about Gitanjali, then about poem 35, about its translation, a short introduction about it, then line by line analysis of the poem, the various themes handled in it, and about the title. Rabindranath Tagore was a Bengali poet, essayist, dramatist, novelist, and a social reformer. He was born in 1861 in Calcutta. His famous works are Gitanjali, Gora. He composed national anthem for India in Bengali. He died in 1941 at the age of 80. Gitanjali is a collection of 157 poems written by Tagore in Bengali in the year 1910. The English version of Gitanjali was published in 1912. The title Gitanjali means song offering. Tagore won Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for Gitanjali. Where the Mind is Without Fear is the 35th poem taken from the collection of poems titled Gitanjali. The poem appeared in the volume Naivedya as the poem titled Pratana in Bengali in July 1901. Tagore himself translated it into English in 1912. In 1917, he read out the English version of the poem at Indian National Congress session in Calcutta. It was then titled Indian Prayer. The poem was written when India was under British colonization. The poet wishes for the freedom of his motherland. For the better understanding of the poem, let us first consider the last line of the poem. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. The poet addresses my Father, who is God Almighty. It is a fervent prayer to God. He appeals, he requests to let his people wake up in the heaven of freedom as they endure suffering passively. Into that heaven of freedom refers to the prerequisite qualities of a place, heaven, which he has visualized about. The poet now explains how he has visualized that heaven of freedom where his people must awake. The first line of the poem, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. The narrator talks about two things here, a person's mind and a person's head. The heaven of freedom is a place where the mind is without fear. That is, when a person thinks in his mind without any fear of domination or control of colonial power. The second thing is, the heaven of freedom is a place where the head is held high. That is, when a person does not put his head down in subordination or shame. So, the people should hold their head high with self-respect, dignity, and be proud of one's country. where knowledge is free. The heaven of freedom is a place where knowledge is free. Education is a tool that dispels the ignorance. Such education should be imparted free of cost and without any discrimination based on caste, creed, class, gender, race, or religion. Where the world has not been broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls. The heaven of freedom is a place where the world is not divided into small parts by the separation of domestic walls, that is, the boundaries within the country. The world should be united and stand together to make it a better place to live. One should not have narrow thinking but be broad minded to think about the entire world. Where words come out from the depth of truth. The heaven of freedom is a place where the words that we speak should be filled with deep truth. It should not be superficial or shallow, but should reveal one's honesty and integrity. Where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. The heaven of freedom is a place where a person's determination and untiring efforts move them towards perfection. The poet calls out to the people to be strong minded with resolute and unwavering effort to struggle for freedom. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. The heaven of freedom is a place where an individual should possess good reasoning ability, that is, the power to think and understand logically. The individual's rational thinking is important. It should be like a clear stream of water, that is, a small narrow river. It should not lose its way into the dull, boring, and monotonous desert sand which has habits that are dead, which is gone and forgotten. So, one should have clear reasoning power, not to follow the dead, old habits, or not to be lost in the dreadful desert sand by following old customs and superstitions. Where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. An individual's mind should be progressive and lead him into ever expanding thought and action. The poet wishes that the country must wake up in the heaven of freedom where all his prayers to God are fulfilled. To sum up, the speaker says that a person's mind should be without any fear, an individual's head should be held high, knowledge must be free, the world should not be fragmented, the words that we speak should have truth, a person should strive for perfection, the reason should be clear to find out the ways out of dead habits. Mind should be influenced by God. An individual should be broad-minded and magnanimous in thought and action. Freedom is meant for the countrymen, that is, the citizens of the country. The poem expresses the poet's patriotic spirit as he requests God for the overall progress of the country. The poem also has a religious tone as it is a plea, request for the ideal country with freedom and happiness. The various themes that are dealt in the poem are: it is patriotic and nationalistic in spirit. It talks about the colonial power, the oppression because of colonization, the importance and the role of education. It also has religious undertones. The poem is optimistic as it is hopeful to be a free country. The title of the poem is the very first line of the poem itself, which is unique for all the poems in Gitanjali. The title of the poem arouses our curiosity as it opens with the line, "Where the mind is without fear," and we start searching for the answers in the poem. It stresses the importance of clarity of mind and the need to be free from fear to attain real freedom. Thus, the title is significant and apt. Here is a reference for further study. As always, thanks for listening and thanks for your time. Thank you.